itenufa qabsoo walirraa jettu hamma bilisoomutti yoomiyyuu itti fufa. Baaduu yaa Oromoo hajeen hinduuna jira fanjii qabsootu dhohee. Baaduu yaa Oromoo hajeen hinduuna jira fanjii qabsootu dhohee. Abdii guddii naftanyaa qubattee bisuun taatu saba dhagaaf shimalaan tokkummaa ofii duwwaan. Taankiif xiyyaara moo'e amma kanaan boodatti ilmaan abbaa gadaattu aangoo irra nuu jiraan reefuma awwaalatee manatti galeen taa'u Oromoon dhiiga bo'e Ishoo olka'iyyaa Oromoo kumaa lammi baafata mirga abba gaafata.
Traditionally had the parliament and the upper house approve the extension of his time in office because of COVID. And that was raising a lot of anger, a lot of frustration among a lot, because people wanted him to have a dialogue with the opposition, with the civil society organizations, instead of just having a parliament that is 100% controlled by his own party, rubber stamp an extension of power in the office. So this was raising a lot of eyebrows, not only among the Oromo, but also others. And the people don't know how long this is going to last, because the parliament is now going to tell us when the COVID is going to be over, when it's safe for the Ethiopian people to have an election. So this coming from a prime minister who said, he would help the country transition into a democratic system, whereas many saw it as a return to authoritarianism. So Hacaaluu had an interview last week in which he, directly criticized the way the prime minister was handling the reform, but also he was his outspoken usual self in this interview, challenging the status quo, challenging the structural, historical hegemony in that country, which he has been doing it for years and years. So he has been challenging, for example, the legacy of Menelik II, in which many other Ethiopians passionately speak about. He spoke about, in fact, he said it's a matter of when and not if, before the Ethiopian people go after the Menelik's statue in the herd of Addis Ababa, the same way statues are coming down in the rest of the world. So he spoke very critically about the established structural hegemony of the cultural domination in that country, which he feels very passionately about. So it was a very animated interview that had Ethiopians talk about it since he had given it. And there has been a lot of, online animosity as the Ethiopian politics is turning into that kind of polarization since then. He also spoke in that interview that he received constant death threats in Addis, on the streets of Addis. So he said that in that interview as well. So many things are open for interpretation as we speak now, and we would have to wait and see if the police is going to have a genuine investigation into the killing.
Sure, and we'll be bringing you all the details of that investigation here on Al Jazeera. Tsadale Lema there from the Addis Standard. Thank you very much for joining us here on Al Jazeera.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thousands of people have also rallied in Sudan. They're accusing the transitional government of taking too long to introduce reforms. As you can see, security forces in the capital, Khartoum, used tear gas to break up the crowds. Now, some want economic and political change, while others are still calling for justice for those killed during protests last year. And also, supporters of former President Omar al-Bashir are holding rival rallies. Our correspondent Hiba Morgan is in Khartoum, and she said the call to protest drew crowds across the country.
People coming out and taking to the streets ahead of the scheduled time of 1 p.m. local time, which is around 11 G. People have taken to the streets 2 or 3 hours before that, and that is not just in Khartoum. We've seen people in the western parts of the country, such as central and western Darfur. We've seen people in the southern parts of the country, the northern and the eastern parts. So it is indeed a nationwide movement, just like the